For the past year, I've been recommending this app Chordify to all my piano students. Take a look at how it works. As you can see, this interface is totally different from other places you can find chord charts online. It's set up for you to play along with the original recording of the song. And that's one of the best pieces of advice for any music student. If you play along with records, your rhythm and your overall musicianship develop much more quickly. Now, even with an app like this, piano students tend to have a harder time than guitar students making a chord chart sound good right away. So in this video, I'll give you 7 tips for how to use Chordify as a pianist. Number 1, choose the right song for your level. If you're a beginner, the things you want to look for as you browse for a good song choice are how many chords the song uses and how quickly they go by. So this song is a great choice for a beginner. We can go to this chord diagrams summary and see that there are only 3 chords in the whole song. And if you're familiar with the song at all, you can also listen a bit to it here in the player. You hear that the chords are moving by at a pretty reasonable pace. So this is a good choice for a beginner. I recommend that you go ahead and dive into songs that seem like they might be in, quote, a hard key, because you might surprise yourself by how easily actually you can handle these chords like B major, F sharp major. There is also the transpose button, and you can make great use of that if you have an electronic keyboard or digital piano. So I'll give a bonus tip for that later in the video. Number 2, before you start digging in and practicing the song, it's always a good idea to get an overview of the song and look for repetition. There is so much repetition in every style of music, especially pop music. You'll often have a song where there's a very simple repeated chord progression through the song. And that's true of this song, right? So if I go to this chord overview, I can see every section of the song, the verses and the choruses. And because they're organized so nicely like this with 4 bars across the page, you can see that it is just one 4-measure chord progression repeating through the whole song. So while this is a pretty long song, there's very, very little music that I actually need to practice. Number 3, you want to prepare one set of right-hand chord shapes. Now, this is where guitarists get tripped up coming to piano because of something called inversions. So for a quick theory lesson, if you're not familiar with inversions, we can take a simple 3-note chord like this is B major, and we can play it in lots of different places on the piano by changing the order of the notes. If I take the F sharp and I move just that note down an octave, this is a different inversion of the B major chord. And I can do that again. Every 3-note chord will have 3 different shapes that you can play it in. Basically, every note in the chord gets a turn on the bottom of the chord. So if you're coming from guitar, you might be used to having one shape per chord that you get really familiar with. You know, there's the way that you play the G major chord, and that's all you have to think about every time you see that chord symbol. As pianists, we want to move away from only having one way that we can play a chord, because if we're playing everything in, we call this root position with the name of the chord on the bottom, we end up having to jump around a lot to play through a chord progression like this. And if you can choose nearby inversions, your job becomes a lot easier. And it also sounds more musical. It's just much more professional. Eventually, as you become more intermediate and advanced playing chords, you'll be able to find nearby inversions of chords without thinking much about it. And you can even make your decision about which inversions you want to play based on musical reasons. Like, what note do you want to hear on the top of the chord? However, as a beginner, my advice to you is that for a given song, you find one set of shapes. They don't have to all be root position shapes. What you want is a set of shapes that you can remember for each chord that are all close to each other. So I can start by playing through the 3 chords in this song, and I can even look at the chord diagrams that Chordify gives me. And when I play them in root position, I notice that the F sharp chord and the G sharp minor chord are really close to each other. The B chord is a little bit further away. So I'm going to choose a different inversion for the B chord. And if you're on the web app, you can actually do this using the chord diagram tool in Chordify. I can click through these different options for the B chord, and it will show me these different inversion shapes. I really like this one for this song because it puts me so close to the next chord, to that F sharp. And look, if I choose this as my B shape in Chordify, when I then go to play along with the song using the animated view and I start the song playing, it's actually going to prompt me showing the diagram for that inversion that I chose. So that's a really cool feature of the app. With that said, as soon as possible, you want to get these shapes memorized. You want to be able to look at the simple chord symbol B and play the shape that you've chosen for the song. Because remember, our goal is to play along with the original recording in real time. And even with a song like this, where the chords move pretty slowly, you just need to be able to find the chord shape from memory on the fly. And that's part of why I recommend this to students who are learning to play chords. It's such a great way to develop your chord knowledge at the piano. You're going to have to memorize these chord shapes so that you can play them along with the song that you want to play in real time. Now, here's the good news. We've gotten to the end of step 3. And you already could play keys in a band to play this song. It's the cool thing about playing along with a recording, right? All the other parts are being covered. You don't have to play bass with your left hand. You can just play these chord parts. You don't have to play the melody. We're hearing the singer sing the song on the recording. We're hearing the bassist on the recording. And that actually is similar to what would happen if you were playing this song in a band with other people. A lot of times, keys players in bands don't have to do much. You can just play some simple 3-note chords with your right hand, and you'll be supporting the song musically in the way that you need to. Listen to how it sounds if I play along with the recording and I just play those simple 3-note chords. It sounds pretty good, right? And it's definitely way more fun than just playing these dry chords alone at the piano. We've laid a great foundation. We have our chords ready to go in the right hand. We can play them with the recording. So everything from here on out is basically pop piano arranging advice that can make a chord part like this sound a lot better. The first thing that tends to really level up how students' chord parts sound is to add in the sustain pedal. The sustain pedal, and you may or may not have one if you've just gotten a keyboard, it looks like this. I really like this one that Roland makes. It has a rubber pad on the bottom that your heel sits on, and it keeps it from sliding around. With the sustain pedal, you can get something closer to the sound of a strummed guitar. It has sustain, it connects the chords together. Without it, it's more like kind of chunky, short chords on the guitar. Listen to the difference, especially as I transition from one chord to the next. Here it is with sustain pedal. Without sustain pedal, we get these air gaps. And you can connect individual notes using your hand on the piano. We call that legato. But if you want to connect chords, a lot of times the only way to do that is using the sustain pedal. So the key coordination here is called changing the pedal. It's a little counterintuitive, but once you get it, it's like using the pedals of a car when you're driving. You won't have to think about it. Basically, you want the pedal to be down while you move your hand to the next chord. And then at the moment you play the new chord, the pedal lifts for just a moment and goes back down. So that's called clearing the pedal or changing the pedal. That brief lift that goes in the opposite direction as your hand is what keeps the chords from blurring together, right? If I just leave the pedal down, I can get this very blurry, muddy sound where the sound of the different chords is getting combined. But if I change the pedal right when the new chord happens, I get a crystal clear sound of connection from one chord to the next. Once you've got that sustain pedal coordination, we can start playing broken chords. This is really the equivalent of a finger picking pattern or strumming pattern on guitar. We're leaving the same notes in place and just re-articulating them to create rhythm. So instead of playing these block chords, I can create some sort of broken chord pattern or even simpler. Those things are fun because they tend to sound really fancy on piano, but they actually aren't much harder to play than the basic block chords. You're finding where the notes are for the chord, and then everything else is just kind of following through a pattern of transferring from one note to the next. This next step gets our left hand involved. And most often when we're playing pop piano, our left hand is going to act as a bass player. We don't need to double all of these chords in a lower octave. That's just not what actual keys players do most of the time. It makes things sound really dense and muddy. However, if you just add the bass note for the chord, and that doesn't change if the inversion in our right hand changes, it's just the name of the chord, you can play that with single notes or with this octave shape where I'm doubling that B in both my pinky and thumb. And that makes for a really great bass player sound. You have to use your judgment, because if you are playing in a band, or if you're playing along with a recording like this, sometimes you end up cluttering up that low end. You're fighting with the bass player. And like in this song, for example, there are places in the song where more than a chord, they're really playing a riff. There's a specific melody that the bass is playing. So if I land too hard on this like held out bass note, I might end up feeling like it's conflicting with that bass line. So you have to use your ears and your own taste. But if you're playing the song by yourself after you've practiced it with the recording like this, it can be really helpful to have that bass player ready to add in. So it's a great thing to practice. And you notice what I'm doing is that I'm taking that same broken chord approach and applying it to my left hand. So here what that means is that I'm alternating between my pinky and my thumb to create extra rhythm. And an especially useful thing to practice with that left hand broken chord idea is that the thumb will come on upbeats, right? So, ba ga 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 gang. If I hear the strong beat, bump, 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 the thumb is kind of leading into that. Ba bump, ba bump, ba bump. And you can practice this coordination just by playing wherever that strong beat is going to be in your right hand and then leading into it with the left hand. You can do it on the piano without playing any chords. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. You can do it in your lap. You could just hang on one chord and use that coordination. And that's what your thumb is doing. So your pinky can land on the beat. And then the thumb can add in that extra texture. And our last step is to try adding in additional rhythms and riffs that we're hearing in the recording. Again, this is the great thing of actually just working right with the original recording and playing along. Your ears are going to guide you really well towards things that you're picking up that you want to try to play. And don't be afraid to just play around, try things. I'm hearing this little melody that the guitar in the song leads into the first chord with. And with a little trial and error, you might be able to find that. So once I find those three notes, I can try to find a way to work it into my chord part. I might have to use different inversion shapes to incorporate both the riff and the chord. So this is a much more advanced technique. But listening for riffs like this can really level up the sound of your chord part. And if you're having trouble picking out notes to what you hear by ear, a good place to start is always the key of the song. You can see the key of the song as Chordify has identified it if you look in this transpose area. So here we can see that this song is in the key of B major. If you don't know your major scales, you should subscribe to this channel and go check out my other videos on the major scales. I also have free resources for anything like major scales and all these different chord qualities. But the B major scale looks like that. So trying notes that come from the B major scale is a great idea if I'm hearing melodies that go beyond just the notes that belong to the chords. And that's it for our 7 main tips. Now, I mentioned I'd have a bonus tip for you having to do with the transpose button. So we just looked at how you can see the key of the song here in the transpose area. Because we're in an app, we have a really cool function where we can just change the key of the song with this button. And now it's in the key of C. So despite what I said about being brave about hard keys at the beginning of the video, many piano students do find it easier to stick to a handful of familiar keys. And if you use the transpose button, you can make things way easier for yourself and just stick with playing in a few keys to start with. If you're playing on an acoustic instrument, it will take away the option of playing along with the original recording because the recording stays in the same key. But if you're playing on a keyboard, little hack, I just transposed it up 1 with the Chordify transpose function, right? If you then transpose it down 1 on your keyboard, you will be able to play along with the original recording. So now my keyboard is going to be in the key of B when I play a C chord, and I can read the C chords from the chart, and it's going to come out sounding like we're in B, which is the same as the recording. So that might have been kind of confusing. I get a little twisted around about what's happening, but the simple rule is however you transpose it in the app, you do the opposite on your keyboard, and it's still going to sound like the recording. So if you go up 1 in the app, go down 1 with the transpose button on your keyboard, and that's your transpose button hack. And I'll say that's the sort of thing where I encourage students to do it when you're getting started, if it makes your life easier and gets you right into playing the songs you want to play. I do also push my students to become the transpose button, right? You want to be able to play any song in any key. And that's partly because it's very freeing. It lets you play in different keys, say for a vocalist, if you are on an acoustic instrument. It also just teaches you a lot about the piano keyboard and about music theory. Putting things into different keys, whether it's a song or a simple melody, it's one of the best ways to train your ear, train your theory knowledge, train your keyboard knowledge. So a lot of the exercises that I have students do in my Piano Fluency membership course have to do with changing keys in some way or another. And that's it for our 7 tips for how to use Chordify as a pianist. Thank you to the folks at Chordify for creating such an amazing educational app. And if you've enjoyed this video, you like the way I teach, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, stick around for further piano education. With that, thanks for joining me. My name is Ted with Piano Fluency.